Bases dropped on a rather warm Wednesday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, May 29th. It is a Wall Pass Wednesday match day edition of SDH. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning, and we'll be taking your tweets as much as we can throughout the show. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the Wall Pass Wednesday hashtag if you have questions about Atlanta and Minnesota tonight. If you have questions about the MLS docket on tap for tonight. There's a bunch of games around the league. If you have questions about the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup docket on tap for tonight, there's a bunch of matches around the competition, and tomorrow will be the draw where Atlanta United learns who its fourth-round opponent will be. We'll get into all the Open Cup stuff in a bit, but, John, let's start with Minnesota coming to town. This is a big match, I think, both ways, because you have two teams that in the very short term are kind of heading in different directions. Atlanta United's lost 2 in a row. They are trying to prevent their first ever 3-match losing streak in club history, while on the other side, Minnesota's won back-to-back games at 1-0, and they've suddenly found a defense since conceding 4 goals in Toronto about 6 weeks ago. They've been very, very difficult lately with 4 clean sheets in their last 6.
But I think absences, and we got into this yesterday, and obviously we'll get into it today as well, but I think absences at the back and folks playing out of position may create opportunities for Atlanta United tonight. Not having Metaneer because of yellow card accumulation, I think, will be big. And forcing some decisions into Adrian Heath's mind and his mindset coming into tonight, who plays where. And I think that for Atlanta United, I think they can take advantage of it with folks out of position. So, I'm looking forward to all of the appropriate pre-match opportunities in social media to see what the starting 11 is for Minnesota. But, I think that, like I said, without folks that he's used to having there and grinding out all these clean sheets and getting all these 1-0 results, I think that Minnesota has some challenges tonight that Atlanta United can take advantage of, even though there's going to be one player who will not be a part of the starting 11 either tonight or on the weekend.
Tito Villalba, yes. Let's stick with Minnesota where we're at here first about them defensively. Now, they've had some injuries leading into this, and they've been able to piece things together on one side of the back line. You've seen Miguel Ibarra play as a left back, a little unexpected, but he's played a little bit of wing back. Now he's played as a true left back. You saw Hassani Dotson make his MLS debut at left back over the weekend. He played right back in the friendly with Hertha Berlin before that. Now, without Roman Metaneer, you're in a really difficult situation if you're Adrian Heath. I would not be surprised to see him go to a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 or some element of that to play 3 center backs because of the absence of Metaneer. Lately, they've been in the 4-2-3-1. That's generally Adrian Heath's MO, but I don't know if he wants to go into this with Eric Miller is not listed as injured. He has been out for a while with a quad injury. He was not on the injury report. Doesn't mean he's going to play tonight, but he was not on the injury report. If you could go with Miller and Dotson, maybe you do that. I don't know if you want to go with Ibarra and Dotson. That feels like more of a risk. Miller's a solid outside back who could play on the right side and slot straight in for Metaneer. Gasper is listed as out. Chase Gasper has been out with a hamstring. He is a left back. He has not been able to help you lately. I would not be surprised if they bring Ike Opara back into the lineup and they go with Boxall, Opara, and Kallman as your 3 center backs. And then you could play Miguel Ibarra as a wing back, which is a little more comfortable, and you could play Dotson as a wing back, and I think get away with it a little bit more if there's questions about Miller. That's the biggest question coming into this match is Minnesota's been good defensively, but now they've lost probably their MVP so far this season when Roman Metaneer with a needless yellow card late. Needless. You've got the 1-0 lead. It's a tackle from behind on the touchline. Like there's no need to even make that play to pick up that yellow card. So he's out. We'll see what Adrian Heath does. One thing he's talked about, the difference this year than in other years from the Minnesota perspective. In previous years, we've seen them make a lot of mistakes. And when they make a mistake, it seems to trigger about 4 more mistakes in a row. They're not doing that as much anymore. He said the Houston game last week, for example, was one that they would not have been able to close out in 2018. It might have ended up in a draw. It might have ended up in a loss. They're starting to see those types of games out. Now, flip side, the attack has been an issue. It's been a big issue. Last time they scored more than 1 goal in a match was April 19th. That's 7 matches, including that Hertha Berlin friendly. Darwin Quintero has been poor in front of goal in the run of play. He has 5 goals on the season. He has not scored in the run of play, I believe, in about 600 minutes, which is 613 minutes, which is shocking for a player who came in and lit the league on fire last year. You are getting some production, 4 goals this season in 13 matches from Angelo Rodriguez up top. Abu Danladi is healthy and trying to force his way into the lineup more often. He's got 1 goal in 10 matches for you. He's only started 3 times. Ibarra has a goal. Finley has a goal. You're not getting a lot of production in the attacking end. This could be a really weird match on a lot of fronts. Both teams have played a lot of matches lately. For Minnesota, this is game 4 of a 5-game and 15-day stretch. But we've talked a lot about the schedule and the travel, and I know people get bent out of shape and say that that's making excuses. You want to compare 15-day stretches? Minnesota, 5 games, 15 days? That's tough. This is the only game on the road in that time frame. Only one. A little different on the other side of it, eh?
Yeah, just a bit. You've only got the one match. And how many miles did Atlanta United put in this stretch? Have we come up with all that math?
I think it was like 8,000. I mean, it was something ridiculous.
Great for frequent flyer miles, not good for athletes who are trying to be in tip-top shape when they're trying to put the best out there match after match after match.
Yeah, it's really difficult to be your best at that in that type of run. So when you look at Minnesota, I think they're going to do a 3-5-2. I think Adrian Heath is going to try to shore things up defensively and bring Opara back into the team. He had a knee injury, came in as a sub against Houston to help kill that game off, where they went to, honestly, a 5-4-1 to see that one out. He could do that. He could play Rodriguez up top. He could play the line of 5 with the wingbacks who get forward when they can, and have Quintero kind of in a floating role underneath Rodriguez up top. You could do something like that. You could, pack the midfield with Osvaldo Alonso, with Ron Gregush, Rasmus Schuler. You've got the players to do it, to play that type of way. I'll be curious to see how adventurous Adrian Heath wants to get tactically in this one with the absence of Metzner.
Yeah, and for me, how does the team respond? How do they look? And I think that when you were breaking it down, the more that you were breaking it down, the more that it was popping into my head that it was going to be something 3-5-2-ish, 5-3-2-ish. And so now, taking that into account, I just would like to see. I want to see the personnel and see how it looks, and then pick your brain when you're not doing all of the things that you and Mike are doing pre-match. Just sit there and say, okay, this is what we see. What do you think? And then get 15 seconds of your best before you have to go back to work.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see this lineup. If you want to go 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, if you're Minnesota, you could go. You could go Rodriguez and Dunladi up top. You could go Rodriguez and Quintero up top. You could play Quintero as the 10 in behind Dunlady and Rodriguez up top. That's a little more attack-minded. Alonso and Gregush together in the holding midfield, that's a really good combination. They've been really good this season. Gregush, there were questions when he was signed as a designated player. He's the third in club history. He's delivered. I think he's been, maybe not worth the big price tag, but he's been pretty close. I mean, he's got 4 assists on the season. He is second in the team in interceptions. He's second in the team in creating chances on key passes. He's their leading pass guy, 61 passes per match. Passes at a good rate. He hits the long ball well. He takes shots from distance. And then Osvaldo Alonso, I mean, we know what Alonso brings to the table. He's second best passer in the league. He's scrappy. He gets into the tackle. He commits some fouls. He's second in the team in actually committing fouls, 1.5 a match. But he gets fouled more than anybody in the team, 2.5. Pretty weird for a defensive midfielder. I think he just gets under your skin a little bit, and you want to kick him a few times.
Yes.
56 passes per match, so he's very involved. Another player who can hit the long ball, and that's something for me that, as I've dug into Minnesota a bit, I think is a concern. You have your 2 central midfielders in Alonso and Gregush, who are the hub of this team in terms of passing. This is where the possession's coming from. And Minnesota's not a big possession team, but they get it out of their 2 central midfielders. And then you have 2 central midfielders that are pretty proficient in hitting accurate long passes to open the play up. And if you're going to play in a 3-5-2, you're going to need that because, one, they're going to have to play the balls in over the top for Rodriguez, play the ball to Rodriguez if he's a target to hold it up. You're going to play it over the top for a Dunlady or a Quintero to get into space. And you want to hit them down the wings, too, if you're in that 3-5-2, when you can get Dotson or Ibarra or Miller making those long runs to stretch the field. Gregush and Alonso are the keys for Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I was thinking the analogy that I was coming up with was they're the spoke in the wheel, I guess, for lack of a better way to phrase it. You always sit there and you look at those centerpieces that are there, and with Gregush and Alonso, that's how everything goes, and they're the stoplight, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. At the intersection.
I disagree with your metaphor. They wouldn't be the spokes of the wheel. They would be what's the center of the wheel.
I thought. Okay. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah. The spokes are the ones.
The center of the wheel, and the spokes, I guess, are the things that go out from the center.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And so So it's been a while since I've ridden a bicycle, but yeah, they're the center of the wheel. They're the centerpiece for all the spokes that go for all the metal pieces that go to the outside of the tire. So
yeah, your wingbacks are those.
Yeah. So yeah, Alonso and Gregush, they're the center of the tire. And all of the metal pieces go from the center of the tire out to the outside. So yeah, Alonso and Gregush, that's what I'm looking at. So I'm just going to go wreck my bicycle for the rest of the segment.
Let's simplify it. They're the engine. They're the engine of the Loons car that is driving down the road to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because those are the 2 guys that are going to make this team go defensively, because they're your first line of defense, and they're going to make the team go because they do start the attacks quite often. And when you've got a guy in Jan Gregush who is number 2 in key passes in your team from a fairly deep-lying role, that's important. He's a player that you have to account for and you have to shut down if you're Atlanta United. And that's going to be something we have to get back to. And we talked about it when this run got started and Atlanta looked pretty good in the early portions of it. You have to see that transition from offense to defense happen a little quicker than it has lately. And transitions are the thing that, to me, they break down the fastest when you're tired, because transition's not just a physical thing, it is a mental thing as well. You have to have that focus and be locked in. And when you're tired, you're not able to focus as much. And you take that extra second to say, okay, I got to step here. Okay, I got to recover here. I got to drop here. You take that extra second to make that decision, and you can get punished for it against a team that has that ability. And Gregush and Minnesota have that ability. So when Atlanta has possession, and they will dominate possession tonight, when they lose it, they have to switch on and make those decisions in transition very quickly. When to step, when to recover, and when to drop to keep your shape. They have to make those decisions faster than they have in their last couple matches.
And looking at the projected lineup, they're looking at a 4-2-3-1 for Minnesota.
Who is projecting this?
Matchcenter.mnufc.com.
Okay. That doesn't mean that's the lineup. No, seriously, I'm not trying to be difficult. Like, that's, who knows where they're pulling that from. That could be to throw you off. That could be something realistic. That could be just taking the last lineup and pulling Metaner out because he's suspended and
plastering it on a piece of paper.
It doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying that they will definitely go to 3-5-2 because they haven't done that lately.
No, but it made the most sense.
Well, I mean, it could. It's not a definite, and I mean, look, we're all playing a guessing game right here, and that's the issue when you get to this point of the season and you have suspensions and you have injuries, and okay, they're missing the right back. They don't really have a lot of depth at outside back. Miller is coming back from injury. Is he ready to go? How crazy do you want to get it outside back? Or do you want to bring in an extra center back and try to solidify that way? I think Heath has shown the 3-5-2, 5-3-2, 5-4-1, those different looks enough to think that he'd be comfortable going there if he has to. And on the road in a place that has been a very common location for teams to drop more defenders, it would not surprise me a bit to see that 3-5-2 or even 5-4-1 to start with here.
No, I'm in complete agreement with you. I was trying to look for composites, and I stumbled across this that was counter to our conversation here in the first segment.
No, they could do that. I mean, you could, if you want to keep it simple, you could easily just slot in somebody at right back and keep Dotson on the left. And if Miller's ready to go, I mean, you could play Miller and Dotson on the outside and keep everything as is. Now, the other questions that come up is, this is game 4 of a 5-game and 15-day stretch. Does anybody else need a break? They might. So are you going to rotate more, and who could you rotate with? It's not exactly the deepest of teams. You don't really have another option at center back. Now, if you want to only play 2, Opara could come in for either Coleman or Boxall. Boxall started 9 matches. Coleman started 8. Opara started 10, so they've kind of split it up due to injuries and other things already. The outside back, we've talked about it. Miller, if he's ready to go, would be the obvious one to come in. With Gasper out, you don't have his ability on the left side. So you're kind of scrambling there. Carter Manley, who played some last year, he's also out injured, so you don't have him as an option on the right side. If you want to drop Miguel Ibarra, we've seen it. It could happen. You could play him on the left side and Dotson on the right. Your central midfield, Alonso has 13 starts. Gregush has 12. Rasmus Schuler could play in one of those roles. He has 8 starts this season. He can also play out wide. He's kind of a utility player at this stage. Kevin Molino was a player you were hoping to get back and play some minutes by now. He started twice. He took a knock in the Hertha Berlin friendly, and he is listed as out for this one, according to Minnesota's match notes. So we'll have to assume that he is not available. So then you're looking at your wingers with Quintero and Ibarra and Finley as possibilities, and you might need to use Miguel Ibarra in the back. You could play Dunladi out wide. Mason Toy is a player who hasn't factored in this year. He's been mostly on loan with Forward Madison. So that's your players who've played. That was pretty fast. There's not a lot of options to go through if you do need to rotate here. So Adrian Heath has some really interesting decisions as he comes into this against a team that, hey, on paper you look at it and you're like, man, Atlanta looks tired. They're struggling a bit. They're not really creating much. Do I want to maybe take some chances here? But then you have to look at your team and Metanier's absence and make sure you're covered defensively, and also cover for your own players being tired, because it is game 4 of 5 and 15. So it's a tricky one, and that's where we're at the stage of the season. I think a lot of teams are having those questions right now, and as we get through the MLS schedule and take a look, you're going to have a lot of managers making tough decisions on lineups over the next couple of weeks before the Gold Cup break. These next couple of games are going to be very, very tricky for a number of teams.
Very tricky, and once again, it's trying to figure out picking your spots. Do you think you can take advantage of a situation in the middle of a run, or do you hold off on an idea and try to find the situation going into the Gold Cup break where you sit there? Is it midweek? Is it weekend? And that's the big question, especially for the teams playing tonight. Heading into the weekend, it's like, where can I best have my advantage? Is it now or is it later? And then how do you try to work your way around both ideas?
For Minnesota, you're on the road tonight in a tough place to play. You're at home on Sunday afternoon against Philadelphia. My guess is if you're going to get defensive and try to survive, you're going to do that tonight.
Yep.
And then you're going to go home and try to entertain your fans against Philadelphia. That's my guess. So I'm guessing we see a 3-5-2. But with Adrian Heath and with who he has available, we're all guessing right now. So we will see what happens when that lineup comes out an hour before kick tonight. We're going to take a break. We'll get you set from a fantasy MLS perspective right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, live May 29th edition. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday Match Day preview edition, and it's also a fantasy Major League Soccer preview segment because there's a lot of games around the league tonight and a lot of double weeks to consider if you are managing a team in our fantasy league. Thanks again to Jason Wright of the Jason Wright Agency. Make sure you're following Jason Wright Agency on Facebook, Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter. Open League top performers for Week 13. For whom the bellow tolls, 122 points, 11th in the Atlanta United League. That's one of the best team names. I think the team names are getting more creative from what I'm seeing here.
Don't fire me, bro.
Hold on. The commish is on 119 points for last week, 3 points off.
Oh, wow.
And then the South's got something to Shea, 118
Nice.
points. And Captain Planet's Magic Diarrhea at 118 points? No, that's gross. That's not funny. SDH Open League standings. That's gross. Number 1, Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma. Number 2, soccer-specific fantasy team. Number 3, don't var me, bro. And now we have 10 teams within 100 points of first, up from 8 last week. So you're seeing some movement from the middle of the table. In the Pro Rel League, which is head-to-head, you've got 3 teams with 30 points at 10-0-3 after the Darren Eels Dream Team handed the soccer-specific fantasy team the 3rd loss of the season. So you've got soccer-specific fantasy team, Don't Var Me Bro, and Cam Do Attitude at 10-0-3. All right, so looking ahead, and get started tonight. What are you giggling about now?
Captain Planet. I'm still stuck back there.
Man, it's always like the simplest things. Another double game week, and it starts tonight. Atlanta, Chicago, Colorado, D.C., LA Galaxy, Minnesota, Montreal, Philadelphia, Real Salt Lake, and Sporting Kansas City all play twice this week. Now, which of those players grab your attention?
A lot.
Okay. Well, let's just go through your team first then.
All right. In net, Evan Bush.
Okay. So you've got Evan Bush in net with Montreal hosting Real Salt Lake, and then Montreal.
Orlando.
In Orlando or hosting?
Hosting.
Okay. So back-to-back home games. Yeah, that's not a bad call.
Back 4, and they're all on double week. Elliott from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Birnbaum, DC United.
Okay.
Miles, and Steris from the Galaxy.
All right. I don't know about Steris. They go to Kansas City and
host New England.
And they've got a lot of injuries on the back line, so I'd be a little worried about Steris.
Okay. Philadelphia is hosting Colorado and going to Minnesota.
Okay.
DC hosting Chicago and San Jose. And then
Maybe.
Miles.
Yeah, I mean, Miles is a pretty good one because you've got both games at home as well, and against teams that Minnesota hasn't been scoring very much lately, and Chicago has had issues on the road. So,
all right. Then midfield, Piatti.
Okay.
Memo Rodriguez on a single at home against Sporting.
It's asking a lot.
Katai and Moreno from DC United.
Why Moreno from DC United?
That was financial, and it was a double week.
That would be one.
And I've still got $1 million to play with right now.
Yeah, I might be looking for another one. That one doesn't inspire me.
And then up top, I've got Rooney and Captain De Vela.
Okay. Vela on a single game week as a captain is very risky. Just saying.
And it's in Portland for their home opener.
Yeah, that's incredibly risky. Keep Vela in your team. I know why you want to do that, but I probably would not be captaining him in this week. Because I think Portland's going to win that, by the way.
Yeah. No, not a surprise. So that's what I've got, and my bench is win from Colorado, Zambrano from Portland, and Wando on a single.
Yeah,
I mean that's just bench. That's just bench, and Vega's my backup keeper. So you're looking at blowing up Moreno, basically.
Moreno would be the one that I don't like. Maybe not a big fan of Steris either, if there's a better alternative there. And Montreal would be a team I'd be looking at. I think they have 2 good games at home that they can do some damage with. I think Atlanta is too, although Atlanta hasn't been creating a lot going forward. So that's the concern. But those are 2 games where you can, for sure. It's just, are you going to be able to do it? It's an interesting week. And as we said, with the standings where they're at, with so many teams starting to push, This is one of those critical weeks with a lot of points on the line, with so many double game weeks. So get your picks in. Yeah, get your picks in and set your lineups. If you have guys that you want on a double game week, you got to get them in today. You probably do want to leave a little bit of wiggle room with some single players that you might be able to change out going into the weekend. But this is a week with a lot of teams with a lot of interesting potential double game weeks that you got to keep an eye on. But also look at guys who might not play both games. You got to be careful about that because you are getting into rotation and players needing a break. So keep that in mind as well. Again, it's possible. I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. This is one that if you hit them right, and especially if you hit some players that maybe are not the obvious ones, you could really notch some points this week and move up the standings with some points that are unique to your group. So make sure you're following Jason Wright Agency on Facebook, Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter for all of your fantasy updates. Ask him questions. He'll talk some trash to you at times as well, but
yes,
he'll also give you a little bit of advice. He's not going to give all the secrets away, but he'll give you some advice as you go. So interact with our commish, Jason Wright. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, and we'll talk U.S. Open Cup right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
And Diallo.
John's trying to fix his fantasy team during that break. Took a little extra time for him. I don't know if he got it right.
Well,
Pitti and Diallo is what you say, huh?
Yep. Steris out, Diallo in because of the double at home for Montreal.
I like that one.
And then picked up PT in the middle over Memo.
Over Memo on the one game?
Yeah.
But you kept Moreno in from DC.
Financial, because there's no one in the high eights that's worth anything on a double week.
I'd have to dig into that one for you. We'll talk later. We'll talk offline. Let's look at the Open Cup because it is the continuation of round 3 tonight. It started last night. You had about 2.5 hours of a weather delay as storms ripped through the Midwest. There was a shot, and I retweeted it from one of the Kansas City stations, of a tornado like behind the Speedway, and you could see Children's Mercy Park like right there.
Yeah, that was a
in the shot.
Photo.
Yeah, everything's all good. That travel, though, did reroute the LA Galaxy. They had to fly into St. Louis and stay there last night. So they're going to fly into Kansas City today. Really not much else they could do because there were tornadoes all around the airport. So on the Open Cup side of things, that pushed the start time for OKC Energy and Tampa Bay Rowdies back about 2.5 hours. They were playing in Norman, Oklahoma on the campus of the University of Oklahoma. And by the time the thing actually started, both teams were pretty much insane. You had 5 goals in the first 32 minutes. And back and forth. Tampa Bay equalized at 3-3 early in the second half, and Deshaun Brown scored the winner for OKC midway through the second half. So OKC Energy advance into the 4th round where they will face an MLS opponent. Your games tonight, the interesting ones that grabbed our attention either in our region or just intriguing matchups. The Florida Soccer Soldiers, who we have talked about a lot. They are 1 game away from getting to play a Major League Soccer team. They have to go to Cary, North Carolina to face a North Carolina FC. Really difficult one for the Soccer Soldiers. They have had a couple of weeks to rest up after the craziness, and I'm sure they've probably rested guys in their league play to get ready for this. 7 o'clock tonight in Cary, North Carolina. Another 7 o'clock start, Louisville City hosting Birmingham Legion. Remember, Birmingham went into Louisville and game got pushed back because of weather. It was the same weekend that Atlanta was in Columbus. They played on Sunday morning, and Birmingham beat Louisville in Louisville. It was Birmingham's first win. Can they repeat that trick in the Open Cup and move on? We'll have to see. St. Louis hosts the final USL League One team in the bracket in Forward Madison. They're playing in St. Louis at 8 o'clock. That's the dumbest thing. I am so not a fan of hashtag Flamingo and plastic flamingos, and it's Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, come on. It just feels like we're trying too hard. I do like the kits. The pink kits, it's great.
Yeah, the pink kit is strong. I just wonder if they jump up. They do jump around in the so the 4th quarter would be like the 68th minute. I wonder if they do it then.
I hope not, because that would be lame. That would be really lame to play a song in the 68th minute over the loudspeaker. Yeah, it's not the same sport. Yes, it would not work.
The pink kits are amazing.
The pink kits are great. I feel like the whole flamingo thing is really trying too hard, and it feels very insider baseball. And if you look at it from the outside and you're like, what? Huh? What? Why?
What? Madison, Wisconsin, and
I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and our team has a flamingo. Yeah, I'm not interested. I hope that's not the case. And they've done really well.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, and is that going to result in dollars? Because that's what it comes down to. But that's a big question. And this is something that I see a lot with lower division teams. And Forward Madison, I mean, Peter Wilt has done this many times. He knows what he's doing. He's done very well with team launches. But you see a lot of low-level teams that have an amazing logo. They get a great designer to do it. They put out some really cool shirts because they're usually with like an independent company or somebody local. And they put out some cool merch. But is it creating sustainability? Is it moving the needle? Because as we've talked about many times when it comes down to these teams and the sport, as the levels get higher, you're not just trying to appeal to an insider hipster base. You have to go mainstream, and you have to cross over to the mainstream. And do the sports editors and news editors in Madison, Wisconsin, and the surrounding areas, do they get it? I don't know. And that would be the question going forward, because if you're going to go with something like this, you have to really tell that story strongly and be very vigilant in telling it. I hope they can pull it off. They've done really well at the USL League One level, and I don't know what their aspirations are. I don't know if they're looking at going into a USL championship team or how big they're trying to get, but sometimes I do worry that the more insider we get with some of this stuff, the more limiting it can be to the overall growth of the club. And I'm hopeful that's not the case here.
Well, and it comes down to wins and losses too. I mean,
not always. I mean, when we're talking two different things. There's been plenty of lower division teams that have won and then went out of business the next year. San Francisco Deltas, for example.
Yeah.
They won the title, but they were going out of business halfway through the season. So it's not wins and losses. Not always. That's part of it. That doesn't solve everything. You have to have the right business plan, and you have to have the right marketing, and you have to get your story out there. You have to connect with a broad base, and it's something that we've talked about a whole lot when it comes to what Atlanta United's done and what other clubs that I think have shown that type of success. You have to connect beyond the soccer bubble. If your only goal is to hit the soccer bubble and the small soccer community in your town, you've already created a ceiling. So you have to create a situation and a brand and a club, one that has the sustainability to be successful in the long term from a business perspective. You have to make sure you're well-funded to start. You have to ride out some early years. You have to appeal to sponsors, all those types of things, and people buying tickets and buying merch. All that is very important too. And you have to put a good product on the field. But wins and losses, no, that doesn't fix everything. It doesn't. Forward Madison has another opportunity, though, tonight to grab people's attention with a win in the Open Cup and potentially bring a Major League Soccer team to Madison, Wisconsin. Now, you want to talk about something that gets your attention? That would do it. If Forward Madison advances and they get Chicago Fire, for example, that would be a pretty good night in Madison, Wisconsin at Breese Stevens Field. So we'll see if Forward Madison can get past a really good St. Louis team, a really strong defensive St. Louis team. Memphis hosting Hartford Athletic at 8 o'clock. Hartford started to turn it around a little bit now that they're getting some home games and gotten over the bumps early in their season. But Memphis is also, I feel like they're starting to kind of put things together. And Lagos Kunga on loan with Memphis 901, that's helped them a good bit. So can they move on and draw a Major League Soccer opponent? We'll see if they can get past Hartford at 8 o'clock. The one that I think a lot of people in our region are looking at is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Nashville SC hosting the Charleston Battery at 8:30. This has been a pretty good little rivalry, I think, over the last couple of years when these two teams meet. They're not all that dissimilar in the way that Mike Anhauser and Gary Smith see the game. So I think this will be a very tight one, a very intense matchup. And whoever wins, I mean, it's pretty easy to guess that the winner of that would be in play for a potential opponent for Atlanta United in the fourth round of the Open Cup.
And Charleston is staying on the road after this. They're not going to Murfreesboro, going back to Charleston, and then going to their matchup on the weekend. They're staying out for the entire time. So I want to see how this whole week on the road affects the Battery long term. But now tonight in Murfreesboro, I'm looking forward to this one. So it will be on the laptop as we are watching the latter stages of Atlanta United and Minnesota.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good one in Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro. The late game tonight, Las Vegas is hosting the final NPSL team in the tournament, Orange County FC, Orange County Football Club. They defeated Orange County Soccer Club in the second round. And this is a matchup of two U.S. men's national team legends. Eric Winalda manages the Las Vegas Lights of the USL Championship, and Paul Caligiuri manages Orange County FC of the NPSL. Should be an interesting one. I mean, Las Vegas has more talent here, but when you talk about NPSL teams that can pull these kind of upsets, Caligiuri's Orange County is definitely one that has the ability to do it, and that's a very talent-rich area. A lot of players that you might not know but can play at this level. But the other side of it is Eric Winalda knows that talent pretty well, and if there's anybody who would know the players that Paul Caligiuri has and the threats that they can provide, it would be Winalda with his scouting network in Southern California. So the Lights would be your pretty big favorite in this one, but keep an eye on Caligiuri and his Orange County FC trying to pull an upset and get an NPSL team into the fourth round. Now, U.S. Soccer announced it yesterday. The fourth round draw will not be broadcast in terms of a draw. It will be announced on Twitter tomorrow starting at 11 a.m. So we will stay on after 11 tomorrow to announce things as they pop up. I think this is an awful decision from U.S. Soccer. There is no good reason why they are doing it this way other than limiting the possibility for something embarrassing happening, like the Minnesota-Cincinnati, oops, Minnesota can't host for this round, and we drew them to host. Let's just flip it, when in actuality, the way the bracket should have been pulled, it would have changed the whole dynamic of that bracket, that portion of the bracket. So I'm assuming they don't want that to happen again, so they're just not showing it. But the flip side is it creates the situation where you have a tournament that's a blind draw, but you're just getting announcements made of matchups instead of actually seeing the blind draw happen. So the transparency, the optics, it just doesn't look good. And there's no good reason why you're not doing this. I mean, just keep it simple. I don't think people are asking for the full BBC production of the FA Cup draw here. I think if you have a Twitter stream with the commissioner of the tournament who comes out and announces, talks about the tournament, talks about where we're at right now, can even mention some of the Cinderella teams that are still in it, sets the parameters for how it's going to go. You're going to go ahead and determine the geographic pods, which if it's done like it has been in the past, you'll set up the groups of 4, and then you do the draw in those groups. And just before you get to each one, you say, okay, we're in this pod that has Team A, B, C, and D in it. Team A cannot host on this date in the 4th round. They are eligible to host in the 5th round. Done. And then you pull the draw. It's not that difficult. But be transparent about it and make it look right. I'm not talking look right from a production standpoint. Just look right in that you're seeing it happen in front of you. Not even the presentation. Just do the thing. Like this, to me, for all we know, it's being decided in a boardroom, and then the matchups are just announced. We don't know how the actual draw is taking place. That's not where this tournament was headed, because that's how it used to go. I'll tell you straight up how this tournament used to be decided in these types of situations. You would get the matchups, but the way teams got drawn to host, you would bid. Mm-hmm. And you didn't know what you were bidding against. You didn't know what the proper things were to bid. You just wrote a letter and said, this is what we will do if we are selected to host here. And for an amateur team, forget it. You're not getting that opportunity. It's not going to happen, because Seattle would basically say, we'll give the U.S. Soccer whatever money we have to give to host these games. And they would host all the way through. DC United did that through the late 2000s as well. And you'd host all the way through. That's not what a cup competition should be. And I've been very clear in it. I'll continue to be. I don't think U.S. Soccer should manufacture that MLS teams go on the road in their first match either. It's a cup. It's a draw. It's a blind draw. If a team can host, they should be allowed to host if their name is drawn out. But actually show the draw so we know that's what's happening here. That's the problem I have with it. It's not hard to do. It can be done. Everybody else does it this way. It would eliminate any questions about the way things are being matched up. And you're already, and I think people are comfortable with it, you're already setting parameters in terms of those geographic pods. So you're trying to make it, feasible for teams. If the Florida Soccer Soldiers get through, you're not going to make them have to book flights to California. And you shouldn't. So you're going to put them into a group with 3 other teams, probably in Orlando. You're not going to be Tampa Bay now because they're out. Probably, the Nashville, Charleston winner, possibly Atlanta, possibly Birmingham if they get through, possibly Memphis. You would put them in that type of situation, and that's what you should do. I think people are comfortable with that type of manufacturing of the draw, but just show the thing. It's a big step back for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Wasn't there a sell-off one year for
the Atlanta Silverbacks?
For an Atlanta match?
They're not the only ones who did it, but they were the last ones to do it, and then it was changed that you couldn't do that. We were at the game against Georgia Revolution in Conyers, and the Silverbacks won, and the Silverbacks president at the time came over, and Doug was there, and I was there. I was writing for the Cup.us, and we were told, do not say that the Silverbacks are hosting in the next round. And we're like, but that's the way the bracket's set up. Like, you're going to host Seattle. No, don't announce that. And then it comes out that they sold it for six figures. I want to say $150,000, and a future friendly, which never happened. It was an embarrassment, and they changed the way that happens going forward. And then the next year is when the Silverbacks beat Real Salt Lake and played Chicago at home, got 2 games with MLS teams in 2014, and it was a big deal, and it was an exciting thing, and it showed how foolish it was to sell the game. But those days are gone, at least. This feels like a step back to those kinds of days. Just show the draw. Just do the draw and show it. It's not that difficult. Nobody's asking for a Vegas performance here. We don't need musical acts. We don't need costumes. We need somebody to come out and say how this is going to go, and then just do it. Pull out the ping pong balls, pull out the envelopes, however, and just do it. That's it. That's all anybody wants to see here. And it needs to happen. It's really disappointing that it's going to be announced the way that it is tomorrow.
No, it's I'm with you. I mean, it seems like a gigantic step back from what you want to try to present yourself in being by not having this out there for everyone to see, and it lends the soccer fan to give more questions about the process than it would if you had full transparency or even just some kind of transparency.
Yeah, transparency is a good thing. And for a federation that has been dogged by a lack of transparency over the years, this feels like a really bad situation. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll be here on the show talking about it. It'll start at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we will talk about things as they are announced. I'm assuming that you're going to at least have them divided up geographically. That's how it's been done in the past, but your guess is as good as mine. I know there is a committee working to improve the tournament. Stuart Holden has tweeted about it a good bit. He is on that committee. He is actively taking suggestions as well on Twitter. When he asks, let him know how you feel about this tournament. Let him know what you want to see. With everything on ESPN Plus now, I think there's a greater level of attention. I think there's a greater level of excitement. And there should be, from the teams involved and the federation, a greater level of potential and opportunity here to make this a bigger deal than it is. And one way you do that is setting things up properly. It's just that simple. Just set things up properly and do the thing right. That's all anybody's asking for. One other nugget today in terms of your MLS fantasy things we did not touch on is Christian Nemeth for Sporting Kansas City. He is suspended for the game tonight. He got an additional game for his red card against Vancouver, the stomping on Felipe that looked really bad. Felipe ended up not missing any time, but it looked nasty, like a potential ankle breaker. So Nemeth got an extra game on top of his red card, and he's going to serve that tonight. So if you were thinking about Christian Nemeth on a double game week, he will not be on that double game week. But if you want him for the weekend, you got to put him in your team tonight. That's the tricky part about it. So keep that in mind as you're looking at it. And then again, the Galaxy. I mean, this is a team that did not get into Kansas City last night. And for one time, nothing to do with flights being canceled or planes needing service or anything like that. It was weather in Kansas City. Didn't matter if you were on a charter or not. You weren't getting into Kansas City yesterday.
No.
They're in St. Louis, and they're flying into Kansas City today. Not sure how early they're flying in or how that's going to work. I mean, that's what, hour flight, maybe 90 minutes tops.
Yeah.
It's a quick one. So it's far from ideal, but it's manageable. So keep those things in mind. Do we have any Wall Pass Wednesday things on Twitter as we finish up hour number one?
We do. We have several, actually.
All right, let's hit a couple here.
Well, and don't forget, go to the Bailey Daily at JBailey86 and vote in the poll for what you think is going to happen. The man who runs the Bailey Daily is thinking 1-0 Atlanta United. Eric Schwartz, I think I saw Kratz in the 11 for G Unit. Howdy do. I miss his late match stabilization subs. #WorldPass Wednesday.
Yeah, he's still getting back into fitness. Against Charleston, he looked like a player who'd missed some time. I think that's fair. Didn't blow you away, but he's also an experienced guy. I think the biggest thing for him is fitness. Is he able to give you a possibility off the bench in the middle of the field tonight? Questionable. Possible, but questionable.
Let's see. Mr. Green says 4-1 to the Five Stripes. Minnesota gets theirs first, though.
Minnesota has not given up a lot of goals. I'm a little skeptical of a big night scoring for Atlanta United tonight, just because of how good they've been defensively here as of late, and my gut feeling that Adrian Heath is going to double down on defense tonight with Metanire out.
Okay. Do you think you can answer a somewhat large question in about a minute and a half?
I will do my best.
From Bartimus Prime, #WildPass Wednesday. Over the weekend, refereeing the Kaku suspension came up. I called him a world-class player and was met with doubtful responses that I called an MLS player or world-class. How do you define a world-class player? End quote.
Ooh, that's a tough one. When people say that you can't be world-class in Major League Soccer, that's just stupid. Yes, you can. I don't know if I would go Kaku as a world-class player, but that's not because he's in MLS. I'm a little... I want to see more consistency out of him, and especially late last year where he just disappeared in their system, and he was the type of player that they really needed to step up and create. That's why I wouldn't call him a world-class player. But Ezequiel Barco, at his age, he's world-class. Pity Martinez, when he is in form after what he did last year with River Plate, he can be world-class. There are other players in this league who can be world-class, for sure. I mean, as much as we give him stick, I mean, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and what he does, there are still world-class elements of what he does, of what Wayne Rooney does. Carlos Vela, there are world-class elements. It depends on how you define world-class is the bigger thing. Some people will say that means to be world-class, like you have to be among the best 20 players in the world. And if that's the definition, maybe there's not one of those in MLS yet. But if you're talking about among the best players in the world and you're not talking about it from strictly a European perspective, yeah, there's plenty of players who fit into that category. So my answer would be foolish to say MLS players can't be world-class. I don't know if I would put Kaku in the world-class category just yet. He's close, but not there yet for me. Let's take a break, come back, we'll get Mike Conti on the line. We'll talk about world-class for Mike Conti and see what he thinks about MLS being world-class and being described as world-class. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. He Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Hour number 2, SDH, well past Wednesday, Matchday, all the things, US Open Cup, a bunch of games around MLS. But it's Wednesday, and that means it's Mike Conti time. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Not much. Getting ready for another match. We've got this one, and then Saturday before the first team gets to catch its breath. Minnesota's in the midst of a 5 matches in 15 days, although they only had 1 away from home. Imagine that.
Yeah, and it was in Chicago, which is what?
Ooh, that's a tough
45-minute flight. So
Yeah.
Now, they lost that match.
They did.
But, they've had a really weird stretch where, let me see, 5 of their last 6 and 6 of their last 8 matches have been home. That makes sense because they were on the road for the first 5 weeks because they were finishing Allianz Field. But this is their only road match from May 18th to the 4th of July. This is it tonight. They are not on the road again until July the 6th.
Yikes.
Hey, open a new stadium, and you get the benefit of that, I guess. I mean,
see Portland.
To their credit, I mean, they had 5 road matches to begin the year, went 3-2-0. And the 2 losses were close, 3-2 to Galaxy and 2-1 to New England. So credit to them. It feels like they're starting to slow down a little. It's something we were talking about off the air. They only have 4 goals in their last 6 matches. So they're slowing down a little, but you have to give them credit. I mean, the league gave them a really, really difficult first month of the season to give them time to get Allianz Field open, and they were able to stay afloat through that stretch, and that's why they're top 5 in the West right now. They were able to get some much-needed points on the road, and that's why, dropping points at home as they did to Galaxy and New York City and Seattle, it's not really a bad thing. And by the way, those are not bad teams to drop points at home against. Those are 3 really good teams.
Yes. We have on a Wall Pass Wednesday, we have had folks ever since your last appearance who have been asking a certain question and wanting to know if a certain individual in the Conti household got the appropriate amount of meat and wanted to know how good a boy he was since.
Well, Fred is an outstanding boy, the best boy. So anytime he asks to be fed from the table, he's going to get hooked up. I have to say the problem with Fred is he thinks that I am the easy mark to give him food. And, anyone who's been around me or had a dinner with me knows that I'm not one to really share my food. I usually eat all of it. But when it comes to Fred, he usually is able to get what he wants from my wife, Leanne. The problem when was he being a bad boy? Wednesday or Thursday when you guys called at night? The problem was Leanne was still upstairs trying to unwind from the day and change into more comfortable clothes and everything. So it was just me and Fred and you guys and a whole bunch of chicken on the table and no one's eating and Fred's going to, make his voice heard loudly. But yes, Fred got his fried chicken and he deserved it because he is a very good boy. Thank you all SDH listeners for not only being patient through that, but for asking as well. He's my best friend. So I appreciate you all asking.
It's a bunch of dogs in the SDH universe, so I think people are used to the dogs making their voices heard on the show as much as possible.
Well, you guys came over to my Christmas party last year, so you both had the pleasure of meeting Fred, and that's the thing. Like, Fred is a real social butterfly. He when he thinks there is a chance that someone is going to slip him some food or a treat of some kind, he's going to be as friendly and as polite and well-mannered as it gets. When he gets a little grumpy in his advanced age, he's now 14 years old, and his father is on a phone call trying to talk about a match in Salt Lake City, he's not going to give anyone the benefit of the doubt. He's just going to speak up until he gets fed.
He is making sure you know that, hey, I would like some of that chicken on the table, please.
Yeah, trust me, you can't avoid it. It's very, very loud.
Okay, so it's been a while since the Salt Lake match, and there were lots of feelings after that one. Where are you after, it's been a few days. I think the team has had a chance to catch its breath after just a difficult run of games and a back-breaking kind of goal to concede deep in stoppage.
Yeah, it's the most painful result of the season. I think one of the reasons why it's so painful is, and I know there's been some discussion about, Frank wanted them to foul in the midfield to get the ref to blow. I think one of the things that's just so painful about it is Savarino was just better than LGP on that play. He won the 1v1 matchup and cranked in a golazo. It's not like it was a fluky goal or a deflection or an error by Brad or anything like that. It was just a really good 1v1 play by Jefferson Savarino. And that's what hurts you so much because, if you lose on a fluky type thing, you just kind of tip your cap or shrug your shoulders and keep it moving. That's one where, listening to what Darlington Nagbe said yesterday, listening to what Darren said yesterday on Dukes and Bell, if they had extracted a point out of that match, mentally it would have felt like a win to them. And I think, Jason, you and I are kind of on the same page with that, too. The way that they kept fighting, even with absolutely no legs, to produce that goal in the second half, with Pitti and Franco coming on as subs and impacting the game immediately and producing that goal, that would have been one of those draws that felt like a win. You didn't get it. Now you've got to move on mentally because I think you got to get 6 points this week. I think anything less than 6 points this week, and you're going into the international break not feeling very good. But, I went back, I watched the game on Friday. I keep thinking about it. I keep coming back to the same conclusion. And I know that it's something that Jason probably didn't fully agree with me on. I thought Atlanta United played its worst first half of the season. Bar none. Worst first half of the season. I don't think Salt Lake was playing very well either, but they were outplaying Atlanta United. Atlanta United looked very sloppy and very fatigued. Of course, that's going to happen because you've been on this crazy road trip. You can't play that poorly for 45 minutes and reduce the amount of time you have available to go out and find that goal. They did find the goal. They played a lot better in the second half. And then Savarino had the moment of magic at the end. So, if you're looking for a really consistent, well-played 90 minutes from Atlanta United, you did not get that Friday night. It is a credit to Salt Lake. But now you want to see, with having a little bit more rest than your opponent and having the benefit of being at home, you want to see something resembling a sharply played 90 minutes tonight against Minnesota. And that's going to be difficult because Minnesota is playing very well themselves.
Well, I would caution people, too, at this point, with the amount of games you've played, it's borderline impossible to have a sharp 90 minutes. But what you can't do is what happened in Salt Lake, where you have some really big dips in whether it's decision-making, whether it's transition, whether it's just speed, mentally and physically. You can't have those big dips. You're not going to be sharp. You've got to make the most of your moments. And I thought Pitti and Franco especially did that when they came on with a little more freshness. But you're fatigued. It's really difficult to be sharp for 90 minutes right now.
Yeah, and this is what I'm kind of stuck on coming into tonight. I don't know if Mike Petke had a strategy a philosophy that, hey, we're going to make this an end-to-end match for 90 minutes because they're tired, we aren't. It obviously, Real Salt Lake was most dangerous in transition on Friday, and Atlanta United was having a hard time keeping up, and that is understandable because of all the matches they've played, all the travel they've had. It's produced fatigue. Now, Minnesota, for a long stretch of this season, was one of the more wide-open, entertaining, end-to-end teams in MLS. As we discussed during the break, they have not been that way lately. So here's Adrian Heath now. Do you want to try to go end-to-end and make Atlanta United run, knowing that you're playing a fatigued opponent? You may be fatigued yourself. I mean, like you said, this is their fifth match since May 11th. Or do you try to play a little bit more defensively, which I actually think, as much trouble as Atlanta United has had breaking down bunkering teams this year, I actually think that would be a little bit of a break for Atlanta United, because if you can possess the ball and kind of build in little catch-your-breath moments as you hold possession tonight, that might be better for Atlanta United in this spot of the schedule, this spot of the season right now.
All right, so then let me go to column number 5 in the old Jimmy the Greek analysis here. The intangibles. Mm-hmm. And we're having folks who are commenting on it in the timeline, and that's what's bringing this up. And I think that in this match and the match on the weekend against Chicago, you have to look to the 17s here once again to help push you through because of everything that has happened and everything that you think needs to be accomplished in these next 2 matches. You're looking at 6 points. I know a lot of folks are looking at only 4, but I think that once again, this raises another opportunity for the 17s to help be that extra voice to help get them through this.
Yeah, no doubt about it, John. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, the players talk about it. That means they notice it. It's going to be vitally important. Mercedes-Benz Stadium needs to become that venue that everyone feared going into in 2018. And honestly, I think it's been pretty much there. I mean, if you look at the negative results that Atlanta United has had at home this year, that draw against Philadelphia looks a lot better than we thought it was at the time. And you pulled a goal back to get a draw. Dallas was extremely frustrating, maybe an outlier. Cincinnati was the worst they have played all year, but it's understandable given what they were going through. Going back and forth between Kennesaw and D.C. and Mexico and all that. I mean, it was a very, very tough spot. Now, you're in another tough spot tonight. But I think the 17s have actually done a pretty good job over the last couple home matches of really trying to push and propel this team, especially in that Toronto match, which was a midweek match. And for whatever reason, I know that midweek matches are tough to get to, especially if you live outside the perimeter, even outside the state of Georgia, and you have season tickets. I know they are hard to get to, but I really feel like those Wednesday night matches have become kind of the diehard special, where it's the ride or die fans that are really fully invested. They're going to be into it for all 90 minutes. And sometimes the low capacity Wednesday night matches feel louder than the high capacity weekend matches like we're going to have on Saturday against Chicago. And maybe that's just in my imagination, but I actually think if you look at the way Atlanta United has played at home this year on Wednesday night, got a really good result against Monterrey, may have played one of their better matches all season. I'd say SKC was probably the best, but Toronto was right there. That was on a Wednesday night. Now you got to get that same kind of energy again tonight, and I feel like you're going to get it. I know anecdotally, I've been talking to a lot of people at the radio station today who are going to this match tonight. Prior to the Toronto match, there was a little less interest in people in my inner circle about going through the effort to get down there. Tonight, it's a little bit different. A lot of people very, very interested in getting tickets, trying to get into the match tonight. So I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Yeah, I don't know if it's louder in these types of matches. It's definitely more intense. And that's going to be important tonight because those moments where you're tired and you're feeling it and guys just made a 50-yard run to defend, those are the moments where I think the team really needs that feedback from this crowd. When you see whether it's Julian Gressel or Darlington Nagbe make that long run defensively or Franco Escobar makes that long overlapping run, those are the moments where they need that feedback from the crowd, and the rest of the team needs that to spur them along because, look, it's difficult right now, and it's difficult for a lot of teams around the league. I think Atlanta drew the short straw in terms of the way the games were matched up scheduling-wise, but compressed schedule, you're seeing lots of hamstring injuries, lots of quad injuries, lots of calf injuries around the league right now. Everybody's tired, and they need that reaction from the home crowd.
Yeah, and here again is where Atlanta United, for the first time all year, gets a little bit of an advantage because they're playing a home match tonight against an opponent that's on slightly less rest than them. So Minnesota played on Saturday. They beat Houston. Great result, 1-0 win. If I am taking context clues correctly from Twitter, I think they may have come down here on Sunday. I have seen people in their traveling party tweeting from Atlanta since Monday. So I think they've been down here I don't know that for sure, but I think they've been down here for a little while. But nonetheless, Atlanta United has 4 days of rest. Minnesota has 3. Saturday, Atlanta United will be on the same amount of rest as Chicago, but Chicago will be traveling. I think they're in D.C. tonight. Take advantage of those moments. They have been very, very few and far between this year. Extremely rare, especially at home. First time all year you're going to have that at home tonight. So you have to take advantage. And this will balance in the second half of the year a little bit. But I think it just speaks to, a bunch of really bad luck that you've had. You go out, you get Justin Miram because you're looking for him to give you some depth in the attack, and now Tito Villalba gets hurt. You're still without Barco. That's bad luck. Fox wants to move the Red Bulls match from 1 to 5 o'clock. Now you can't fly back from Newark Sunday night. You lose a day on Monday. That's bad luck. You've had a lot of bad luck this year. Not excusing where they are right now in terms of overall record, where they are on the table. You've had a lot of bad luck. Now you're starting to get a little bit of a schedule break compared to your opponents. Got to take advantage and capitalize tonight.
No Tito for this match or the next. I guess I won't phrase it as a worry, but for these next 2 matches, is there a top couple of numbers list for the Mike Conti list of concern over the next couple of matches?
I don't know if Tito being out is on that list. I thought Pereira was adequate on Friday. If it were me, I would start Miram tonight. One concern that I would have is that you don't have, it appears you don't have the flexibility right now to rotate Gressel out. And I didn't think he was himself Friday night. I don't know if he's tired or if it's something else, but it feels like he might need a night off, and you don't really have the ability to do that now because you have Tito and Barco both out. I mean, I guess you could go Pereira and Miram both starting, but I don't know if that's a chance that Frank would want to take. Pitti, you should be okay. You played him only a half hour on Friday, so I would think he'll probably be good to go this week. John, no, not really. I mean, I don't have like this list of concerns about these next 2 matches. I think they're 2 winnable matches. I think of the 2 you're playing this week, tonight will be harder because Minnesota might play a line of 5 and another line of 3 in front of that, and that will be difficult to break down. But again, like I said, I think in possession you're going to have moments where you can kind of catch your breath and collect yourself, and that would play into Atlanta United's hands. So, I mean, it stinks that Tito's not available. You want to have him, but I think you can get through these next 2 matches. By the way, I don't hear too many people complaining now about Atlanta United letting Barco go to the U20 World Cup. That's funny how that works out, isn't it?
Actually, we've had some people say, like, oh, no, they should have kept him because look how good he's playing. We didn't get this.
That's the exact reason why you shouldn't keep him.
Exactly. But, it'd be nice to have him right around now, of course.
It would be great. He'll be back on the 26th, hopefully. It'll be okay. If Barco gets sold for like $30 million to someone within the next year or 2, the U20 World Cup this year will be a big reason why. Yeah. And we'll all be having this discussion a year or 2 from now and smiling and laughing about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been electric in these first 2 games. We didn't get a chance to see, much of the first game live. land in Atlanta. I completely disconnected from everything.
Well,
and
Jason,
watched a
know
movie.
what was crazy? You know
What's
what was
that?
crazy? Our seatback TVs on that flight from Salt Lake City, they weren't getting any of the usual channels except Telemundo. So I was actually able to watch.
See, I gave up.
60
I gave
minutes of
up on
that
it because I
match.
wasn't getting any channels. So
Right. No, you just had to scroll through. Like Telemundo and Discovery Channel were the only ones that were working. So I got to watch it. Look, by all accounts, and I thought Frank made an interesting comment yesterday about did he say his sister is scouting the World Cup? It sounds like Barco's been the best player in the tournament so far. I know it's a small sample, only 2 games for most, but this is what you want. This is exactly what you want and hope for. And it's great for Ezekiel. He'll hopefully come back here with a boatload of confidence. But I was fortunate enough to watch a lot of that match against South Africa. And the U20 World Cup's a little bit tricky because, like, you've got Mali and Tahiti and South Africa, and you don't really know how good they are as far as the footballing nation is concerned. But, you still got to go out and score the goals and move the ball. And Barco's been doing that.
yeah, he's been outstanding. To see conversations about, well, man, sometimes it's just really hard. You come up in a generation, if you're a player like Paulo Dybala, and you're between Lionel Messi and Ezekiel Barco in terms of getting time with Argentina's national team. When you're seeing those conversations internationally, that's where you're at right now. And it still blows my mind, and I'm very sensitive to this, but it blows my mind to see, one, the lack of talk about this from a national MLS perspective and how good Barco has been. And whenever there is talk, the pushback that, oh, well, he wasn't any good last year. Blows my mind.
You have, unfortunately, a couple prominent national voices who have been very much on an agenda about Barco that has at times even gotten a little bit petty and vindictive. And if that discussion that you're mentioning, Jason, is to occur, those people are going to have to admit they made a mistake. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do.
It's a shame.
They'll remain nameless, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Because he has been outstanding, and it's a great thing for the league. And if you are a young South American player, if you're a young player anywhere in the world, to be perfectly honest, and you see the trajectory for an Ezekiel Barco, playing in a top league, making the decision to go to Major League Soccer, it wasn't all roses last year, but there were good performances in there as well. And then he lights the league up this year early on, goes to the U20 World Cup, and is so far one of the best players and being rated as highly as any prospect in the tournament. That is going to open your eyes to saying, you know what? When those teams from Major League Soccer call my agent, I want to hear what they have to say.
But all we hear from the MLS side is about Paxton Pomykal.
And Paxton's been very good, but he has not been Ezekiel Barco.
No.
And that's the thing, that you need both. You need both. You need a player like Chris Richards, who comes up through the FC Dallas Academy. Now they're not able to get him on paper with a contract. He goes overseas to Bayern. You need those players. You need players to come through for the U.S. national team as well, but you need good young players, period. And Ezekiel Barco is that. And I hope he can continue to do it in this tournament. Argentina looks like a team that could have a deep run.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you want to get Barco back ASAP, but let's look at the big picture right now. We talked about how the sale of Almiron was Atlanta United's biggest accomplishment as a club next to winning the MLS Cup. If they sell Barco for a higher number than Almiron, which I think now is becoming imaginable, especially with Atlanta United holding a lot of leverage with the length of his contract, the age of Barco, no urgency to sell him because you have 4 designated players. I mean, Atlanta United's going to have a ton of leverage when it comes to what to do with Barco. If Barco ends up being sold and the club ends up pocketing more from that sale than they pocketed from Almiron, that becomes the second biggest accomplishment in the history of this club.
It does. It's pretty crazy that that's where you're at right now. But 2 games before we get there, and it starts tonight with Minnesota coming to town. We're on the air at 6:30, correct?
Yes, 6:30. And before all of that, at 2 o'clock, we'll have stoppage time on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. So if you're listening to us, go ahead and send us some questions. We talk about all things soccer. So we'll take your questions on anything soccer related.
Anything.
Excellent plug.
Can we talk about the lack of Transformers and or GoBots at the U.S. Open Cup draw?
Yeah, where is this soccer house, by the way? Does anyone have an address? Like, can they drop a pin or something like that?
There is an address. It's in Chicago.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe someone can drop a pin, and when we're there on July 3rd, we can drop by the soccer house and make our contribution.
Play with Voltron.
Yeah, and by the way, rooting really, really hard tonight for the Florida Soccer Soldiers, because I think there's a decent chance the winner of that match is going to be in that group with Atlanta United for the 4th round draw. I just have a sneaking suspicion about that.
It's very possible, and it's very possible that Atlanta draws an MLS team in the Open Cup as well. That's far more possible than it was last year. So,
well, I don't want to
Orlando.
Go back to DC. Yeah, I don't want to go back to DC at all. So I'm not going back to that.
Well, we'd probably play it in the Soccerplex, so that might be okay.
Well, heck, that'd be a lot better than playing it out. So
it actually,
but what now? That would be interesting if it's Atlanta Orlando. Do you play that at Kennesaw? If Atlanta gets the draw.
Yeah, we had this question last year too, when that was a possibility.
I don't know what the building availability is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but that feels to me like one that you would probably want to put that in front of 30,000 people if you could. It would draw very well.
Yeah, I think it would. That would be a fun one. Mike, thanks as always. I'll see you in a little bit.
Take it easy, guys.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back with Doug Robertson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
John might need some help ever changing a car battery, we have learned during the break.
This shocks you?
No, it doesn't at all. I'm really not surprised.
As long as it doesn't shock you.
Yes. That is absolutely correct, Doug. Yeah,
yes.
It doesn't shock me, and if you're changing it, please don't shock yourself. Go to whoever your friendly car shop is and have them change your battery, John, after that last conversation.
It's the sensor on a 23-year-old car has a tendency to poke its head above the waterline occasionally, and I have to, much like Doug this morning in the next couple of weeks, make sure that I have an emissions test that passes before I get my new tag. So broke the fourth wall on where Doug is this morning.
Yes, so live from the county tag office, Doug Robertson of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
The beauty of living in Carroll County is I don't need emission inspection. So,
I did not know that.
Seriously?
We are far enough away from the metro area that we don't need emission inspections. Yep.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Did not know that
you
either.
Learn on Soccer Down Here on a Wednesday.
There you go.
Nice. Let me ask you this. What did you learn yesterday in Marietta at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground as you spoke to some players and Frank DeBoer as well?
Frank said he was asked a very good question by Christopher Meister. What's the one area of improvement he would like to see the team make from the Real Salt Lake defeat? And he said transition defense. I thought he might say creating goal-scoring opportunities, but he didn't. Transition defense. He said that both goals, they just kind of got beat because they didn't hustle back and get into their positions. So that's the one thing he wants to see tonight against Minnesota. The goal-scoring to me is still a gigantic concern. The team is on pace to score literally less than half the number of goals, I think. No, 36 goals. One more goal. Anyway, half of the goals they scored the past two seasons, they're on pace to score this season. And that's kind of alarming as I did the math the other day.
We've had some folks come in with questions this morning, and since it is a wall pass, we figured I'd go ahead and include you in on this process. And one of our listeners, Ryan Lee, asks, what do you think the storyline of tonight's game will be? Not what we need it to be, but what you think it will be. And I guess this will go for the both of you on a hashtag Wall Pass Wednesday. Doug, what do you think the storyline of tonight's game will be?
Just creating chances. Atlanta, the chances are starting to dry up. I don't know how much of that is fatigue, how much of it is just guys aren't making runs, guys aren't getting into good spots. To me, that's going to be it. A lot of that is going to be dependent upon Pity Martinez. He's got to have a good game. Ever since that Orlando game, his performances have been lacking, in my opinion. They need him to have a good game and create some opportunities for Joseph and for the other guys around him.
Yeah, I think the storyline of this is going to be Minnesota sitting deep. I think with the suspension for Metaner and their lack of real options on the outside, I think they're going to insert a third center back. That would play to their strengths. It'd be better to get, taking last week's lineup, it'd be better to get Iko Para in than play somebody out of position as an outside back and scramble and chase. So I think that's going to be the story of the match, is Minnesota sitting deeper. Now, how does Atlanta deal with that story? And that's going to be what decides the match. And we'll have to see. I think Doug's right. Pity Martinez is going to be a player that if Minnesota sits deeper and compresses the space, it's going to be down to Pity Martinez and others, but Pity specifically, to unlock that defense.
That is true. I've got a little bit of news for you.
Oh, we like
it.
Approximately 40,000 tickets sold for the Mexico-Venezuela match coming up next Wednesday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I just got that figure in.
That's a lot ahead of time, because the Mexico crowd, and for events like this, you don't have a huge advance purchase generally. It's a big walk-up crowd. I do remember was it the Nigeria match when Mexico was at the Georgia Dome that I think nearly sold out in advance and sold out, I think, after we got into the building. Pretty soon after we got in the building early. But it's generally a walk-up crowd, and now you're seeing that change a bit. 40,000 now is pretty good.
Yep, I would think so. I bet they can get past 60.
I think so too. I think it'll fill up. I think it'll just be like day of and right before the game that it fills up.
And then there was the other piece of news, Doug, that you passed along this morning about Julian Gressel, that he now has the green card.
Yeah, his green card has been approved, so he will no longer count or take up an international slot on Atlanta United's roster. So they now have 2 slots available for use, looking at the MLS website. And as I tweeted, to go ahead and head this off, this does not mean that he can play for the U.S. men's national team. So let's just stop all of that. I'm not sure he wants to play for the U.S. men's national team or have a U.S. passport. Or
right.
I don't even get the vibe that he is really interested in doing that. I think he's still holding out hope to get a call up to Germany at some point. For some tournament or game or something. But anyway, yeah, he's not eligible for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, green card doesn't do it for that. So it does help from a roster perspective. Gordon Wild was the other one who was previously in an international slot, and we had seen on his Instagram that he was recently in Germany, and everything around that was to get things done for his green card. So you have 2 open slots now, and you don't have a roster spot to deal with because Justin Merrim took up your last senior roster spot, but you have international slots to deal with if you might need to down the road.
Well, there you go.
And then Doug, with Tito out for this match and for the weekend, who are you looking at? Who is in the Doug Robertson spot shadow for taking over the duties, responsibilities, and hopefully stuff on the score sheet for Atlanta United? Who is in your spot shadow for these next 2 matches replacing Tito?
I don't like the idea of giving a younger player a start and then just putting him back on the bench. And I'm talking about Dion Pereira in this case. I would love to see him get a second start after he got his first start against Real Salt Lake. So I'd love for him to get another start tonight to see what he can do. He wasn't – I called him solid in the Real Salt Lake game, which means he wasn't spectacular, nor was he poor. He was just kind of solid. And I think that he has a higher ceiling than what he showed against Real Salt Lake. So I'd love to see him in the starting lineup again just to see what he can do.
Yeah, I thought solid is a fair way to put it. I think Dion had good moments. I thought he put in a really good, intelligent shift. He worked hard. He didn't really get caught out of position. He didn't have that impact that you were looking for in the final third, but he wasn't bad by any stretch. I think solid is a really good description of it. So if he got the start again, wouldn't shock me. You do have Merrim. You wonder if he's going to get another opportunity. And, I thought coming into Salt Lake, Julian Gressel was a player that was looking very tired. Now with Villalba out, it might be harder to give him a break. I don't know how comfortable you would be, Doug, if you saw a situation where Pereira and Merrim started.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that. I've been Darlington Nagbe. I thought played really, really well at the beginning of the season, but the past few games he's been in, I think his impact has not been great. They needed more for him when he played the Pitti role against Real Salt Lake. He's a guy, who's fantastic facing his own goal with the ball, but when you turn him around and have him facing the opponent goal, those same skills for some reason aren't used in the same way. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't get another rest tonight. But we'll see.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of teams are around the league right now. I think Atlanta maybe is the most exaggerated because of the travel factoring in as well, but it's finding, all right, who's going to be able to give you something fresh, and who's going to step up for Atlanta United. We'll see against a good defensive team in Minnesota, which feels really weird to say, but they have turned into that this season, and especially in their last 6. 4 clean sheets out of their last 6. Minnesota's not going to be an easy team to beat tonight with shots hitting the back of the net. Let's get into our predictions. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm high on the Loons. I still think Adrian Heath will find a way to mess it up because that's what he's done the past couple of seasons.
I think they get into the playoffs. I'm still there.
I think I had them fourth in my power poll, a huge jump, and that was a lot because a lot of teams ahead of them lost. But I think they've had talent for the past 2 seasons. They just got to kind of put it together.
Yeah, the Ike Opara and Osvaldo Alonso additions this year, and especially with Jan Gregush as well, who you committed a lot of resources to him, so you expected him to deliver. But Alonso, Opara, Gregush, they've given you an identity in the spine of your team now that you never had before. So it won't be easy tonight. For sure, and this has been a weird series where the home team has never won in Atlanta and Minnesota. Right. Let's get into predictions. True. So, John, you want to kick us off?
Hey, can I give mine first so I can get in, please?
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. Doug has work to do.
That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, Doug's got a tag to get.
Yeah, a 1-1 draw is my prediction. A nervy 1-1 draw.
Is it a 1-1 draw that Atlanta feels good about afterwards? Because DeBoer mentioned, not all 1-1 draws are the same. What is the feeling after this one in your mind?
No, I think it's going to be disappointing because it's a home game.
Okay. Who scores first?
Atlanta United.
Okay. So, yeah, that definitely would be disappointing if it goes down like that. Anything you need to plug at the AJC? Because we know all the usual stuff will be up tonight.
We just posted a short on the Gressel Green Card, and I'll write a short on Mexico's ticket sales. And I'm still trying to find out if they're going to broadcast the Champions League game between the greatest soccer team in the history of soccer teams and that lesser team from London before Saturday's game against Chicago.
Oh, boy. Doug might be walking on air on Saturday by the time Atlanta United and Chicago kicks off, or crawling around the press area.
Or my usual self.
Wow, I wasn't going to go there. But thanks, Doug. We appreciate it. See you tonight.
We'll see y'all. Bye-bye.
Be good.
All right, let's get into the predictions for the rest of us. Jarrett chimes in with a 1-1 draw as well. He does not give us a feeling about the 1-1 draw. Maybe he'll chime in if he's listening. John, what do you think?
Well, Nick is saying 1-0 Minnesota.
That's what Nick does. So at Nick Alifi if you want to yell at him.
Yeah, at SOC over there. I'm going to go 2-1 Atlanta United. And I will go with PT, and I will go with Joseph. And I think it will be nervy, but I think it will be a 2-1 win for Atlanta United.
I'm going 2-0 Atlanta United. I think Minnesota's struggles to score continue. I do think they try to sit back, but the absence of Metanire takes away a lot of their ability to get forward, and I think the replacements, whether it's a 4-man backline or 5, are going to have some issues out wide. And I think Dion Pereira, Justin Merrim, Julian Gressel, Pity Martinez, when he gets out wide, I think they will have opportunities to really attack Minnesota. So
and that was why I said 2 and not 1, because of the absences at the back for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's 1 either late in the first half or early in the second half, and then 1 late as Minnesota does try to open up. So I'm going to go 2-0, and I think it's Joseph and Pity who get the goals for Atlanta tonight. And Jarrett goes with Merrim and Dion start with Larenowitz and Remedi in the middle. It's a disappointing 1-1 when Atlanta gets beat on a set piece late to lose the 3 points. So 2 1-1s, a 2-1, and a 1-0, and Alifi being a negative Nelly.
And yes, a negative Nick.
Yes, negative Nick chimes in. 1-0 win for Minnesota is what he goes with, because the universe is working against Atlanta this season, is what he says. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up with questions, thoughts, and things on the Twitters right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here, May 29th. Wall Pass Wednesday, Match Day, U.S. Open Cup, third round day, big match day around Major League Soccer.
Stoppage time day.
Well, that's a Wednesday, so they don't know. That's nothing different. You got lots of stuff going on. You got a U20 World Cup going on with lots of storylines coming out of that. So busy day in the world of soccer. You have the Europa League final today. And Chelsea had a training session yesterday that looked like they all wanted to fight each other. And Maurizio Sarri threw his hat and kicked it and walked off.
Threw my hat and I kicked it because I wasn't happy with what was going on with the players on the pitch, and so I just decided.
Is that really how he sounds, or are you doing the Jose Mourinho from the special one puppet show?
No, that's legitimately he's down low and he's talking like that. But there's also been a discussion that if Arsenal was to win Europa League, there's a possibility they could still, or if they lose, they could still go into Champions League if Manchester City is found out going up against violations of FFP. So there's a way that Arsenal could still lose.
And go into Champions League. Think that's going to happen?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not buying that.
Cut a check.
I think there will probably be a significant fine and penalty, and the check will be cut, and everything will be just fine. Because what does soccer around the world run on? Cash. Straight.
Oh, did you want to talk
cash.
about Barco and Peter Coates? Since you mentioned the U20s?
Oh, there's a rumor that Barco is drawing interest from clubs, and Arsenal and Benfica were linked. Have not seen that written anywhere other than Golazo Argentino, but he's a good source. If I'm not mistaken, those are two clubs that were linked to Barco at Independiente, so I don't know if it's anything new. His first two games drawing attention, my response would be, duh.
Yeah.
That's where you're at.
Daniel Price, along that same line, he says, I don't know much about the current U20 Argentine team sans Barco. I know that the current captain sits next match due to yellow accumulation. Does Barco get the armband? #WalkPastWednesday.
That's a good question. I don't know how the manager looks at him in that way. I would assume maybe not, but U20 groups are a little bit harder to call. Like, would you look at Barco as a potential captain in Atlanta? He'd be very low down the list because there's a lot of other players that would get that armband first. But in a U20 group where Barco is one of the players playing the most with his first team, maybe he would be that guy. And you see the way that the players around him turn to him and play him and get him the ball and let him drive this team forward. And they really seem to feed off of him. Now, how would he respond with the armband? That would be the question, and that would be for the manager to make that decision. It's possible. It's more possible than I would have considered going into the tournament, just judging from the way that the team responds to him.
And Daniel also wanted to know, what's the likelihood of LGP getting another red card here like last year?
Well, that was just a weird one. That was a strange one to me. So he got the yellow early and then got one for just kind of a dumb decision, clearing a guy out on the touchline, knocking him into the wall. Felt like it was a bad decision on a yellow, and especially where that game was at that point. But does he do that tonight? I don't know. That would be a pretty big guess. We haven't really seen as much of that stuff from him this season. I think he's nobody is one yellow card away from a suspension for Atlanta United, so I don't think he all of a sudden has flashbacks and wants to go kick players in Minnesota shirts.
A couple from the Colonel. Colonel says, in February, I predicted the Stripes would be first in the East before June. I failed to factor in the impact of schedule compression on two away results, otherwise and kind of related. Standing by for Jason's rant on why we're playing Wednesday, Saturday instead of at least Wednesday, Sunday. #WellPastWednesday.
And Wednesday, Sunday would be nice. I'm beyond it at this point. It's frustrating because I do think it's having an effect on the overall competition. And Atlanta United is not the only one dealing with this, but the travel combined with the compression has made it more difficult for Atlanta. There are games on Sunday, by the way, this weekend. Minnesota, Philadelphia, and the Galaxy in New England. So would have been nice to get an extra day, but, that's just where it is at this point.
Okay. And the other one from the Colonel. Jeez! When did this curmudgeon abduct Jason? John must mansplain him the Flamingo connection immediately.
Mansplain me the Flamingo connection, please.
Okay. Every time that they kept trying to figure out the logo, they kept coming back to the Flamingo backdrop that mimics the light blue color of Madison's city flag.
The light blue? No, all that's fine. The flamingo. Why? Why a flamingo in Wisconsin?
The plastic pink flamingo came to be a symbol of Madison after legendary campus prankster Leon Varjan led a prank in 1979 that involved planting more than 1,000 plastic flamingos on Bascom Hill. The prank later became an annual tradition and fundraiser for UW-Madison.
So, a 1979 prank of putting plastic flamingos on campus at the University of Wisconsin in Madison has become a symbol for the city?
And Madison's official bird is the flamingo.
A 1979 prank, and it's their official bird? Sorry,
and according to the layout from, Planet Propaganda, a local design company, like the city flag, the white slash in the middle of the logo symbolizes the isthmus. I didn't know there was an isthmus in Madison. Blue on either side represents the two lakes. Roman numerals, I guess, are the area code. 4 feathers on the bird represent Madison's 4 lakes. 11 rays above the flamingo's head are a nod to the 11 players on the field. Rays also a nod to the captain.
That's fine. No, that's fine. And you can do a logo descriptor and explain every single possible little thing, and this happens all the time. All that's fine. The color scheme,
my top and bottom, W and I in the middle when you read straight down. So,
so
apparently
that's good.
It's the official bird.
It's the official bird because a campus prankster put plastic birds on a hill in 1979. That's
and now
your
it's an annual tradition and a fundraiser for the school.
The fundraiser's great. That's wonderful. If it is that big of a symbol of the city of Madison, okay, cool. But I hope that everybody is ready to explain this every time that somebody from outside of Madison has no experience with Madison says, Flamingo, Madison, why? It just feels strange. That's all. I'm not a fan.
It took a long time to explain that flamingo thing, to mansplain it from the colonel's perspective. That was a long explainer.
Though. That's the whole point. That's my issue with it, is that, okay, you have to explain a campus prankster, how it's become a fundraiser, how it's there's a college campus there, and now all of the rest of it. Like, I don't know. The color scheme, great. All of that's great. The flamingo itself and flamingo and all that, I hope it works. I hope it sticks, and I hope that people in Madison love it, because that's who needs to love it more than somebody in Atlanta who's never spent any time in Madison, Wisconsin. So if it's working in Madison, more power to them. Don't yell at me. We're getting there. Relax. If Madison loves it, great. That's what's important, not me. What
Nick Leafy says, stop hating your Mingos. No, we're caught up. That was why I went to Prize Picks. And Nick Leafy saying, stop hating the Mingos.
The Mingos are lame. I'm not a fan. Sorry. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop.
Prize
It's
Picks.
A plastic bird that got this thing going. No. Anyway, Prize Picks. MyPrizePicks.com. You can download the app over on the Apple App Store, iOS. The Android one will be available very, very soon. Local company. It's a really cool way with daily fantasy to get involved. If you use the code SDH when you sign up, 25% of your initial deposit will be matched. You're going to get a free $25 2-pick play to get you started. That might give you a little more money in the kitty. And you've got tonight Major League Baseball. You've got the NBA. You've got the WNBA. You've got tennis. You've got golf. I don't think there's any golf tonight. That'd be tomorrow. You've got hockey. You've got esports. You can do stuff specifically about the second half of basketball tonight. You have MMA stuff on the weekend as well. You can mix and match. That's the cool thing about it. If there's only one MLS pick you really like and you want to go pick the over on Kawhi Leonard, cool. Do it. You can do that. You can pick 2 picks, 3 picks, 4 picks. And the way it works is simple. They give you a number, the fantasy projection. You can look at how those differ from sport to sport, how your scoring is done. And you're picking, is the player going to go over on that number, or are they going to go under on that number? Really, really simple and easy. Daily fantasy can get complicated on some of the other sites. I think Prize Picks has the best way to do it. So as of right this second, they have 12 plays up on MLS tonight.
Seriously?
Yes. Locally, you've got Joseph Martinez at 7.5, Darwin Quintero at 6 in the match at the Benz. Now, a goal is worth 5 points, an assist is worth 3, shots, a point, shots on goal, a point. You lose a point for a yellow, you lose 2 points for a red card. That's where you're at with your Prize Pick scoring. So 7.5 for Joseph, you need a goal out of that, or you're not getting there. An assist and a bunch of shots, that's a bit of a reach. Although Joseph is among the league leaders in shots. He's not usually shooting 4 or 5 times a match. Darwin Quintero at 6, 2 assists, or a goal and an assist, or a goal and a couple shots. Possible, although he hasn't scored in the run of play in over 600 minutes. Penalty goals do count all the same here, though. You have Przybylko for Philadelphia at 7.5. You have Kai Kamara at 7 for Vancouver in that match. Safir Taider gets the nod for Montreal at 3.5. Wayne Rooney at 8 against Chicago. That feels like an under is my gut reaction right there, because he hasn't been doing very well from the run of play either. Although he did get a goal from the spot, so maybe. CJ Sapong's at 3 for Chicago. That's an attractive possible over. Johnny Russell, 5 for Kansas City and the Galaxy. Oh, Angelo Rodriguez is in it for tonight as well. He's at 3 points for Minnesota. If you feel like Minnesota might score, he would be the one I'd probably be picking on more than Quintero with the recent run of form. Albert Rusnak, 4 points is the number for him, Salt Lake and Montreal. Vancouver, Toronto for Friday, 2 are already on the board there, and you can combine your plays with these 2 guys. Freddie Montero, 4.5, Josie Altidore, 6. Rooney is an under. That's the one that I kind of like there. Sapong, maybe an over.
Kamara under.
Maybe. Rooney under, Sapong over. Those are the 2 that I keep coming back to.
Yeah.
So maybe Russell over, too. Yeah.
You think he's going to stay hot?
Well, I think he's going to at least get an assist, because I don't think the Galaxy are going to have a strong defensive performance tonight. I think that might be a pretty open game. So if Kansas City scores, I would assume Johnny Russell will be involved, and I think he will be very active. So my gut reaction prize picks, Rooney under, Sapong over, Russell over. Those are the ones that I'm looking at right now. But go to myprizepicks.com, download the app for your iPhone, be on the lookout for it for Android, and make sure you're following them on Twitter too, because they are prone to make some special announcements on bonus plays, on potential getting your money back if you play a baseball player in this one. They'll do some really cool stuff, spur of the moment, to grab your attention. So stay engaged with Prize Picks on Twitter as well.
And, they'll do in-game discounts, or they'll do a flash sale kind of a thing, and I've seen that before, and it will actually turn your opinion from one to the other. Because they had one involving Zlatan where you're thinking, okay, I'm thinking over, and then all of a sudden they flip it, and you're going, nope, I'll go with the under, and then that was what would sell it for you. So you got to keep an eye on it. So set up your notifications on your Twitters as well, because they'll do these flash sale kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. Check them out. It's a good local company too, and that's, I like to support local where I can. So check these guys out. Use the SDH code and get some bonus plays and bonus cash on your deposit. We try to help.
We got to help the listeners when we can. Let's see. The Colonel says maybe next week the curmudgeon will be gone and we'll get Longshoe back. # embrace the pink bird.
It's only when it comes to plastic birds being symbols of your team. It's lame. It's a plastic bird. It had nothing to do with even the real flamingo. The whole story is about putting plastic birds with a metal stick in the ground, and that became the symbol of your city. At least the thrasher was the state bird, because it's a bird that you find in the state of Georgia and in the Atlanta area. So.
Yeah, and it's a bird that runs away from a fight, so that was logical.
That's better than a plastic bird that can't run anywhere. It's plastic. Don't we get really worked up about plastic when in this game? You are embracing plastic.
It's all about plastics. That's the future. Plastics.
No,
plastics,
no. What do you get to? What does everybody yell at you? Oh, you're a plastic fan. Plastic. You're plastic. So now you're embracing being plastic. At least
I was embracing The Graduate.
You were embracing The Graduate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plastics. It's the future. Plastics.
Okay. We're talking Plastic Birds, and John has gone back to a movie from the late 60s.
It's a good movie.
Not really arguing that. Just did not expect the late 60s reference to be thrown in. That one caught me.
Oh, when you're 700 years old, your mind goes in certain directions sometimes.
Sometimes. Who wins the Europa League final?
I've got to go with the team, not Chelsea, just because of all of the turmoil.
Oh, sometimes turmoil can spur you on. Kind of with you though. I think it's a game that drives people insane and goes to extra time, and Arsenal probably wins on a sloppy goal. Yeah,
and then Sarri throws his hat down and gets mad at Kepa all over again.
He should at this point. I mean, if Sarri punches somebody, with Chelsea, he's probably entitled to at this stage. It's been pretty ridiculous. What is your biggest surprise in the night of Major League Soccer?
Biggest surprise in the night?
Yes.
Let's see. Let me go back to the grid real quick and look at the matches here. If it's a surprise, then it has to be something that we weren't expecting. Colorado wins their third in a row.
That was my surprise. Man. Yeah, I think Colorado is the one who pulls the surprise. They've got nothing to lose at this point. And we'll see if maybe Philadelphia starts to feel the effects of a little bit of pressure and just all the games that are being played right now. You get weird things this time of year and with schedule
weird in the middle week games too, yeah.
Yeah, Colorado could be the one that's the weird one. You did not refresh the questions on Gressel and national team eligibility. That was the one thing we were forgetting. I knew there was something because there were a bunch from Doug's segment.
Oh, what with Daniel Price saying, I know you said don't, but I mean, could Gressel do a one-time switch, or has he played already for the German team already?
No,
just
there's
a question
no one-time
that come
switch.
in peace?
No. There's no one-time switch. He hasn't played internationally for anybody. So there's nothing to switch. He doesn't have eligibility to play for the United States right now. Period. Flat out. He can't play. He can't be selected because he does not have a passport or citizenship. So he cannot play for the United States national team. The only national team he could play for right now is Germany. And that's not happening. And I don't think that's happening, period. So I don't know what his plans are. I mean, there's no way to know unless you ask him. I don't think anybody's asked him about U.S. national team and would he be interested and does he want to become eligible and all that type of stuff. But there's no one-time switch because he's not eligible. A green card doesn't make you eligible.
And apparently, according to Daniel, flamingos aren't even pink. They're born with gray feathers, which gradually turn pink in the wild because of a natural pink dye called canthaxanthin that they obtain from their diet of brine shrimp and blue-green algae.
Yeah, but they do turn pink. I mean, they're not born that way, but
no,
they are pink at some point in their life, and it's not man-made. Like a plastic flamingo that you stick in somebody's yard. That's man-made. No, I like flamingos. Just not for a team in Madison, Wisconsin, and based off plastic ones. I don't know. Hey, like I said, if Madison, Wisconsin, and the people of Madison and the media of Madison and the potential soccer fans in Madison, Wisconsin love it, then I am 100% wrong. Because that's who matters, not anybody else. And hopefully it's connecting.
I feel like we need to run the more you know stinger after this segment.
We could, but we don't have it, so we won't.
We do. It's just buried in the library someplace.
No, we don't have it ready to go. Let's see. So we don't have GoBots or Transformers to make sure that the Open Cup draw will be handled correctly. Kevin Waltman had asked as well about the Gressel thing, but isn't he still eligible for a transfer of national team, or do I misunderstand how that works? It doesn't even get to that point yet because he's never played for a national team. So if Julian Gressel becomes eligible to play for the United States, he can just play for the United States. There's no need to file a one-time switch or any paperwork with FIFA because he's never represented Germany at any level. But he is not eligible to play for the United States. And that's the number one thing here is that he can't be picked. He can't play because a green card does not give you that ability. You have to have a passport, you have to become a citizen. That's what can give you that possibility. And I believe, now correct me if I'm wrong, and I know different countries are different in this regard. In the United States, you have to have citizenship to get a United States passport. Is that correct, or am I not being correct in that?
It sounds right.
I mean, but in other countries it's different. Like, for example, Will Trapp has a Greek passport through I think, grandmother. I don't think he is a citizen of Greece through his grandmother, but he's eligible for the passport.
You must be a citizen of the United States to be granted a passport, so you must prove your citizenship or naturalization when applying for a passport, book, or card. Original birth certificate or a certified copy satisfies this requirement.
Your citizen, yes. So you have to be a naturalized citizen or a citizen of the United States to get a passport, and you have to have that to represent the United States. Other countries, you do get weird situations where people are, like Ireland, for example, was when Ireland became a World Cup, contender in the late 80s, early 90s as they were starting to compete. You were finding guys who were eligible for Ireland through a grandparent or an uncle or, stuff like that, and they were able to play for Ireland. You don't have that possibility here. Like, you have to be a citizen, either natural or naturalized. And Gressel is not that. That's the main point of all of this, is that Julian Gressel cannot play for the United States right now. Period, full stop.
And there you go.
John Nason had asked for a stoppage time discussion on the Leagues Cup. It needs a better name, first off. Sam Stejkal over at The Athletic wrote this up. It is right now going to be called the Leagues Cup. We can do better. Please. It's the Liga MX and MLS tournament. It's a single elimination for 2019. All the matches will be in the United States. The final might be in Las Vegas. The quarterfinals will be the week of July 21st, and the matchups that Stejkal has confirmed with sources are Chicago and Cruz Azul, Houston and Club America, LA Galaxy and Xolos, and Real Salt Lake and Tigres. The semifinals would be played on August 20th. The final would be on September 18th. There is a monetary prize, but we're not sure how much it would be. In the future, MLS teams will be chosen through a qualification process. No idea how these four were chosen. They're just there. All of the MLS teams have league matches on the weekend before and the weekend after the July 21st match, so there are questions already as to what type of lineups you would see in this. This would be at the very beginning of the Apertura season in Mexico. So there would be questions on the Mexican side of what their lineups would look like. I don't know. In 2019, man, the schedule's already compressed enough. It's already complicated enough, and now you're going to add this in for these four teams. I would not want to be Chicago, Houston, the Galaxy, or Real Salt Lake.
I mean, I get those markets. I understand
Salt Lake City?
I understand the why, except for Salt Lake.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. In the long term, sure, it can be a good
rushed.
thing. The whole schedule thing this year was rushed. So, I mean, it fits right in. Like, you want to get something started, cool. This year with this schedule, it's really, really difficult. And do you want to see more competition between Mexico and MLS? I do. I'm good with that part. I get the idea behind it, but you already have it in CONCACAF, and it's difficult with CONCACAF Champions League because of where it falls in the calendar for MLS teams. You're trying to flip the script here and have it where, okay, now it's the Mexican teams that are at the beginning of their season, and you're in midseason form, but it's for a made-up trophy and a monetary prize that, that's what's going to decide it, to be perfectly honest. If the monetary prize is substantial, then yeah, this is going to be a big deal, flat out.
50 Canadian Tire bucks.
If it's that, then no, you're going to play reserves and nobody's going to really care. Until you get a few games where you have matchups, like if Chicago and Cruz Azul are matched up year after year, then okay, cool. Then you have a rivalry, and then, yeah, you want to beat that team. Pachuca and Houston were matched up repeatedly in CONCACAF play, and that became a nice little rivalry in the late 2000s. So it can happen, but the monetary prize has to be big, and I don't like it this year with this current schedule. You're going to have to schedule around it if you're going to make it a priority. So next year, you're going to have to know who's qualified for it, and you're going to have to create their schedule accordingly to where it can be taken seriously. Because when you have league games on either side of it, and this is a brand new tournament, and if the money isn't worth it, teams aren't going to take it seriously, and no tournament's going to matter if you don't take it seriously. That's what it comes down to at the end of it. Christian Dyer's also reporting over at ESPN that Robin Frazier has emerged as the front runner for the Colorado Rapids job. One of the top assistants in the league. He's been in Toronto with Greg Vanney. Vanney was his assistant at Chivas USA. Frazier was there in 2011 and 2012, won 15 games over 2 years. I remember those Chivas USA teams, and the thing that I remember the most about them was that you had a lot of lineups that made no sense. I'm not necessarily all that high on this potential hire. I think Frazier could be a coach who is a better assistant than the guy in charge. Maybe he's learned, because after that he went with Mike Petke to New York and was his assistant at Red Bulls. They won a Supporter Shield. He's went to Toronto and been with one of the top teams in the league that did the treble. He's obviously grown from that time with Chivas USA, and those were not great Chivas USA teams. Don't get me wrong. He didn't have a lot of talent to work with, but you had things just change willy-nilly, and it felt very weird those 2 years at Chivas USA. If he's learned from that, and he's learned from working with Petke, he's learned from working with Vanney, he's learned from the success at both of those stops, he can go to Colorado and maybe give them some stability, and he knows the area. It's been a while, but he played for the Colorado Rapids from 2001 to 2003, late in his career in MLS, and he's one of those guys that maybe his prime years were before MLS existed. He played 6 of those with the old Colorado Foxes of the APSL from 1990 to 1995. They were one of the top teams before MLS got started, so knows the area, would probably be a place that he would be happy to go to, and if he gets some resources to work with, and he's learned from his past stops, we'll see. But his time at Chivas USA left a lot to be desired.
And then ESPN Plus got something, too.
Copa America 2019 is on ESPN Plus. I thought BN had gotten that. Maybe I'd missed it, or maybe they relinquished it. I don't know. But this year's Copa America will be on ESPN Plus. So you have a day, July 7th, correct? Is that the right date? With the Women's World Cup final, you have Atlanta and Red Bulls. You have a Copa America final. You have a Gold Cup final. There's another MLS game. You're going to OD on soccer that day. Flat out.
Yeah. July 7th, 11 a.m., Women's World Cup final.
Yes, and CONCACAF and CONMEBOL, it's an embarrassment that you're playing your finals of your continental competitions on the same day as the Women's World Cup final. Absolute embarrassment. And CONCACAF, their president said that it was a mistake. They just messed up on their scheduling. Yeah, right. It's an embarrassment. It is a World Cup final. There should not be another continental competition going on that day. Shouldn't be. League plays a little different. It worked really well for Atlanta United last year when they played after. It worked really well for Major League Soccer, more importantly, to play on Fox in that game last year against Seattle after the World Cup final. It will work well this year with Red Bulls coming to town and, game 2 of that series this year with that rivalry. That's going to be epic. But to have the Gold Cup final and the Copa America final on the same day as the Women's World Cup final, that is disrespectful. And it would never happen in a men's tournament. Obviously, it should not happen for the Women's World Cup final. And to say that it was a mistake and you messed up your schedule, come on, really? Do better, CONCACAF and CONMEBOL. It's going to be fun because they're all at different times of the day, and you can watch all three if you want, but it should not happen because that should be an international day for the women to have their World Cup final with no other national team play, period.
I'm trying to figure out what happened with BN. BN looks like they have international, but they didn't have domestic. And
I thought
that was
they
where
announced
ESPN
they had it. I don't know. I thought they had announced that they had it in the U.S., but things have changed over there as of late, if you paid attention to it. So maybe that changed. This is a really late announcement, a few weeks before the tournament starts. I might have missed it. But anyway, ESPN Plus has it now, and it just adds to why ESPN Plus is the biggest no-brainer if you're a soccer fan, period.
Yeah. I mean, that's... For me, it's $4.99 a month, and I have zero issues with it at all, considering all of the content that they have. And I'm spending a lot of time watching soccer on ESPN Plus, no doubt.
There's all kinds of stuff there, so definitely go get it and watch Copa America on it. We will be talking a lot about Copa America and the Gold Cup and the Women's World Cup and all of the stuff this summer because it's going to be very, very hectic. So tomorrow, morning show, we'll be talking a lot about Atlanta, Minnesota, 9 a.m. till 11 in the morning. And we will stay on after 11 for the Open Cup announcement, since it's not a draw, since we're not seeing the draw. I mean, maybe there's a draw. Maybe there's just matchups being played. Maybe there's just things being written on a whiteboard. We don't know because we're not going to see it. But we'll talk about it, and we will be here as those matchups are announced. Then tomorrow evening, we will have a special Thursday edition of Soccer Over There with Europa League final to talk about, with a Champions League final to talk about, with a U20 World Cup to talk about, with a Women's World Cup to talk about. All the things on the Soccer Over There tomorrow evening from 6 to 8. So until then, we have stoppage time this afternoon at 2 o'clock, facebook.com/929thegame. I'll be on with Mike and Jimmy for that. We'll have at 3:30 a quick tailgate show on our Twitter at SoccerDownHere to get you ready for Minnesota. 92.9 will be broadcasting from the Gulch. Our friend Ricky Bevington will be broadcasting from the Gulch. So you need two radios. You need to listen to both.
Yes.
There will be all kinds of things ahead of Atlanta and Minnesota. You can watch it on Fox Sports South tonight. You can listen on 92.9 The Game. You can listen on the radio.com app and the Atlanta United app. We'll have the full-time report for an hour afterwards, and then we'll talk more about it tomorrow because we don't stop talking.
Nope.
That's
Which is a good thing.
it. Yes, it's a good thing. Sometimes. Sleep's a good thing, too, I'm finding. I'm trying to find
I've heard. Yeah, I've heard of that.
I hear that sleep is a good thing. I am trying to find more of it lately. But we'll be ready for all that tomorrow and a big day on hand today. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for all the interaction and questions this morning, even the flamingo questions. That's all good, too. Plastic birds.
Daily. Go vote.
Go vote, and we'll have an
fantasy
update on the standings. We'll get your fantasy set up as well because you got a bunch of double game weeks. Get your prize picks as well. Use the code SDH when you sign up. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.